wonderful day, my dear students, especially to grade 12 Accountancy and Business Management section of Virhandel Carmen, grade 12 Humanities and Social Sciences section of Virhandel Pilar, and grade 12 Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics section of Virgen del Rosario. Welcome to the third week of discussion, discovery, and learning in the course Contemporary Philippine Arts from the Regions. As we start this session, I am hoping, class, that all of you are still in high spirit, especially in discovering new knowledge in the world of contemporary arts. And even though you are still studying from home, under our distance learning program, I am also hoping that you are now 100% recharged and ready to watch and listen in this video discussion. In the previous discussion class, you were able to learn the various art forms that can be found in the Philippines through the second learning competency and learning objective. Also, I presented you different notable examples in each art form that we have here in the country, but with limitations in the contemporary art era, because just like what I said before, this will be our main discussion. This will be our main topic for the third session. So now, please lend me your ears and listen to me very well in the discussion about the various contemporary art forms. As I start, let me first give you the learning competency for the week 3. And this come from the MELCs, or the most essential learning competencies of the Department of Education. Our learning competency for this session is researches on the various contemporary art forms. I'll repeat, researches on the various contemporary art forms. Sa nagdaang linggo, you have already familiarized yourselves with the different art forms in the Philippines from the very beginning of our history up to the present. But since the course is all about contemporary arts, it is only right and just na himay-himayin natin ang mga information na dapat ay matutunan ninyo in this particular era in the history of arts. And how? Sa paanong paraan? We can master or achieve this competency by attaining our learning objective of the week. And our learning objective of the week is that at the end of this session, you are expected to analyze the various contemporary art forms by writing a research paper in a simple format. I'll repeat, by writing a research paper in simple format. From a reflection paper noong first week to a journal entry last week, now it's time for you to apply your learnings in writing a research paper. But don't worry, guys, because just like what I said, this is only in simple format. That means hindi ito katulad ng complicated and comprehensive research paper that you learned in other courses like in practical research. But then again, to accomplish this learning objective is very important for us para masabi natin that you really learned our topic for today and na-master nga natin or at least na-achieve ang ating learning competency number 3. Done with the learning competency and the learning objective. This time, allow me to present you naman our specific learning topics. Sa ikatlong discussion under this course ay tatalakayin natin, class, ang mga sumusunod. First, I'll discuss the various contemporary art forms. I assume that you learned so much from last week's discussion. But for this week, expect that the art forms that you learned will have a new face come contemporary art era. And this is the reason why it has a separate discussion in our course. Makikita natin as we go on with our discussion kung paano nabago ng contemporary arts ang iba't ibang art forms na nakasanayan na natin in the past. And of course, after I present you a different phase of the art forms na mayroon sa contemporary arts era, a specific example of artworks or masterpieces ang ibibigay ko din sa inyo, which I believe will be of great help in the simple research paper na gagawin ninyo for this week. So much for the introduction. Let us now commence to the third discussion in the course Contemporary Philippine Arts from the Regions. As a review or bilang balik-aral sa nakaraang linggo, you can see on your screen kung paano umikot ang ating talakayan sa course na ito. Last week, class, I have given emphasis in the three major periods in the history of arts in the country: the pre-colonial, the colonial, and the post-colonial era, which I said became the reason kung bakit narating natin ang kasalukuyang contemporary arts period. We discussed as well, class, the three major classification of various art forms, including its purpose, such as the visual art forms, applied art forms, and the performing art forms and others. Sa bawat classification of art forms ay nagbigay din tayo ng notable masterpieces from the pre-colonial to colonial and post-colonial period. But again and again, nilimitahan nga natin ang examples sa bahagi ng contemporary arts era. Dahil nga, I will present everything to you today in this topic in a different way. And again, when we say visual art forms, its major purpose again is to attract or entice the viewers or audience. And this includes drawing, painting, calligraphy, sculpture, and photography. On the other hand, class, when we say applied arts, its ultimate purpose are the benefits na binibigay when you use this product of arts such as architecture, fashion, pottery, jewelry design, and even interior design. And the last one, the performing arts class and others, ang main purpose is to amuse the audience or to give entertainment. Kaya it includes dance, music, theater arts, film production, and even literature. Now, let us see how these art forms have changed when the contemporary arts era has started. But first, if you are going to ask me if how would I describe the various contemporary art forms, again, contemporary art forms, ha? Hindi ang art forms in the pre-colonial, colonial, or during the first few decades of post-colonial era, but in the period wherein the history of Philippine arts has finally found the so-called social realism, and that is contemporary art. And in response to that question, allow me to use the famous quotation, think outside the box. Yes, you heard it right. That's how I describe the various contemporary art forms that we have today. Thinking outside the box. When we say thinking outside the box, my dear grade 12 students, it has something to do with thinking differently or being creative and producing something that is not usual or boring. In other words, it's coming up with something that is unique and interesting. Hindi ito ang usual o ang mga nakagisnan na. Contemporary art forms has its own face not only because it shows different identity, but it goes to a broader concept and purpose when it comes to the production and the usage of the artworks. At ito din ang dahilan if bakit we have to make separate discussion for this particular era in the art history. To put my answers into details, ano-ano nga ba ang iba't ibang characteristics ng contemporary art forms? Number one, contemporary art forms are conceptual, innovative, expressive, and experimental. Conceptual in a way that plentiful of ideas are present in different artworks. Innovative dahil most of the masterpieces are original. Expressive in a way that different emotions can be felt and the messages that it brings are very strong. And lastly, totoong mapangahas in terms of its purpose and functions. Kaya we can also say, class, that it is experimental. Number two, it allows the viewers to participate in the experience and is urged to validate his or her own beliefs and feelings. Class, most of the contemporary art forms are dynamic and interactive. Just like what I said during the first discussion, hindi lang sa emosyon ng artist nakasentro ang mga masterpieces, but may bilang din dito ang damdamin and how it is understood by the audience dahil na rin most of the themes o yung tema ng mga artworks ay nakasentro sa tinatawag nating social realism o yung mga kasalukuyang nagaganap, mga pangyayari sa ating lipunan. That's number two. Next, the third characteristic of contemporary art is it evokes more intense emotions from its spectators. Same with what I said in number two, class. Napakahalaga ng diwa na maaaring idulot ng mga taong makakasaksi o makakakita ng isang produkto ng sining mula sa kontemporaryong panahon. Mapapainting man yan, photography, dula, sayaw, fashion, at iba pa. The sentiments of the audience and how they react is an integral part of contemporary arts at para din masabi natin na ang mga produkto ng sining sa panahong ito ay pasok sa mga kasalukuyang nagaganap sa ating lipunan. So basically, these are the characteristics of the contemporary art forms. At ngayon, from its characteristics, silipin naman natin if what are the salient features of these art forms. When we say salient, class, ito yung noticeable or yung kapansin-pansin in the different masterpieces under contemporary arts. Una, most of the art forms are based on abstract expressionism. Ito rin, class, yung maaaring dahilan kung bakit madalas ay napagpapalit ang konsepto ng modern art at contemporary arts dahil na rin, class, sa karamihan sa kasalukuyang sining ay hinugot sa pamamaraang ito. But then again, contemporary arts have its own identity. May sarili itong pagkakakilanlan. Secondly, class, it leaves the mark of the curator who makes them. Curator, class, refers to the artist or the person who made the artwork. And yes, you heard it right. Kapag sinabi nating contemporary art masterpieces, palagi na nitong kakambal ang tao sa likod ng mga produkto ng sining na ito. Why? Not only because maganda ang obra also, hindi lang dahil kaakit-akit yung mga ito. But since the artist is using his or her artworks as a channel or as a way to advocate a specific social concern, then therefore, he or she is also credited or given recognition to the influence na ibinigay niya sa mga nanonood, sa mga nakakakita nito, or sa mga tinatawag nating spectators. And in the coming days class, mas maiintindihan nyo yung part na ito kapag diniscuss na natin ang role ng mga artists in the production of different artworks. Next, the third salient feature is the means or instruments to make the artworks of contemporary art are changing and new technologies are used day by day. Kanina nga sabi ko, contemporary art is experimental. And yes, dahil since we are living in a fast-changing world and technology has occupied already a bigger portion of our lives, dumadami din ang resources ng mga artists when it comes to the conversion of their ideas or imagination into an obra. At hindi lang basta number of resources or instruments mayroon, but instead, these resources na ginagamit for experimentation ay mostly technology-oriented, high-tech ika nga. Example, in photography in the present days ay hindi na lang basta 1, 2, 3 click ang pagkuha ng picture. But meron ng different ways, different techniques, and even best practices mayroon in this field of visual arts. The fourth one, it emphasizes the expression of the self, emotions, and manifests the inclusion of societal issues and concerns. As we go on with our discussion class, you will surely notice na totoong tungkol sa lipunan na ginagalawan natin ang most of the scope or sakop ng mga obras in this period. Perfect example is the painting that you can see on your screen entitled Diaspora by Antipas de Lotabo, which was done in 2007. It depicts class the societal issue about migration o yung tinatawag nating pandarayuhan. Kaya nga, ang paulit-ulit kong sinasabi na in the coming days ay marirealize natin na tapos na ang mga araw na art is just all about beauty, but art is all about reality. Maaaring ito man ay magbigay sa atin ng positibo o negatibong impact sa ating mga manonood, sa ating mga spectators. And finally, the last salient feature of contemporary arts na may tuwirang kinalaman sa ating main discussion is that it can incorporate other forms of arts, blending different media and techniques, which paved the way to the so-called integrative arts. I'll repeat, integrative arts. Class, kapag sinabi nating integrative, from its root word integrate. And when we say integrate, it means combination, pagsasama-sama. In short, contemporary art allows crossover of ideas and strategies. Truly, we can say that its forms are dynamic sapagkat pwede itong mag-blend with other forms of arts. Unlike before, when we say painting, it's just painting. Or dati, kapag sinabi nating architecture, it's just pure architecture. But this time around, the dynamism it offers and the reasons that it gives to the artist to produce fresh and innovative work of arts ay halos kakikitaan ng pagsasama-sama ng two or more art forms. Kaya naman at this point in time, class, para mas maipresent ko sa inyo ng maayos kung paano ba nabago ng art forms ng contemporary arts ang integrative arts. Let us define first the so-called integrative arts. And again, from this integrative art class ay dito natin huhugutin ang mga bagong mukha ng art forms sa panahong ito. When we say integrative arts, it refers to interdisciplinary art that makes full use of two or more disciplines of art to produce a work for a particular public. That's the definition. Malinaw na malinaw, class, that in the definition of integrative arts as applied to contemporary arts, the ideas always go outside the box. Again, the ideas always go outside the box. Kaya nga ang sabi natin kanina, ito ay mapangahas, ito ay experimental, innovative, original, and expressive. Hindi ito nag-stick sa isang art form lamang, but an art form coexists with another art form to produce a brand new idea, a brand new obra, a brand new product that is beneficial for both the artist and the audience. If before we just classify art forms such as architecture, painting, music, dance, theater arts, fashion. Now, they have evolved in the contemporary era and have taken new forms. Sabi nga, they are no longer what they were several years ago. Again, they are no longer what they were several years ago. Kaya naman look at your screen. This is how we arrange the various contemporary art forms. We can say, class, that integrative art is a clear reflection of contemporary art forms. If before, we traditionally classify them lang as visual arts, applied arts, and performing arts, at hindi sila pwedeng magsama or mag-combine sa isa't isa, then this time around, malayang-malaya sila na makipag-blend sa bawat isa. Photography, for example, can be a perfect match to a literary piece to produce a new artwork. Music and dance can successfully coexist in presenting a new trend. Painting can now be seen in pottery in one obra. Architectural structures can now be part of a film production, and many more combinations or integrations na pwedeng makita sa iba't ibang art forms pa. Dahil in the first place nga, contemporary art forms have the freedom to go beyond its limits. But class, to have these concepts organized, allow me to present you the diagram on your screen. From the crossovers or the integration of art forms in the present times, we can say that contemporary art forms now include the following. We have choreography, musical instruments, literary and musical compositions, visual designs and applied arts combined, theatrical performance, and finally, we have cinema. Isa-isahin natin ang mga contemporary art forms na yan. And in each art forms, let's give notable examples na meron tayo sa ating bansa. Let's have the first contemporary art form, which is choreography. Choreography is an arrangement or design for dance movements that is usually accompanied by music. Kaya class, it's obvious kung bakit considered ito as integrative art dahil it incorporates two traditional art forms that we have, dance and music. At class, kapag sinabi nating choreography as a contemporary art form, hindi lang basta ito galaw ng katawan or pitik ng mga daliri. Hindi lang din ito tungkol sa giling ng baywang, but it is an art form na may kinalaman sa art of dancing na ang purpose ay to create a story that could tackle people's way of living in the society, or a story that can discuss or show a specific social issue. At sa kasalukuyang panahon, choreography are mostly seen in the productions of street dancing in various festivals. And these festivals, class, are clear reflections of how people live, including their customs and traditions in a particular place. Sa ating bansa, we have different festivals. Example, we have Panagbanga Festival in Baguio City, Sinulog Festival naman in Cebu City, and of course, meron tayong Kadayawan Festival in Davao City. At marami pang iba na totoong nag-evolve na din in the present time. And not just that, class, through technological innovations, choreography has also been part of the digital arts. Example, evident ito kung paano ginamit ng Elgama Penumbra ang light effects, pati na rin yung digital backgrounds in their shadow dance, making them as the first ever winner of the prestigious Asia's Got Talent in 2015. And even in the presentation of the 21st century dances ng mga modernong kabataan, choreography is presented na rin through the use of recording devices para ma-showcase ito through an audio-visual presentation. So that is what we call choreography. Next contemporary art form are the musical instruments. Yes, class, tama ang narinig ninyo. Musical instruments are also considered as an integrated form of art or as a contemporary form of art. We all know the fact that when we say musical instrument, it is any tool that produces sound. Example, a guitarist plucking the strings of his guitar, or a drummer beating his gong. Now ang tanong, kailan ba masasabi na ang isang musical instrument ay kakikitaan ng integration of other art forms? Basically, class, integration of arts is seen through the intricate designs of musical instruments representing visual arts. Ibig sabihin, ang mga musical instruments nowadays ay hindi lang ginagamit to produce sound or music, but ang ilang artists ay ipinapakita nila ang galing nila sa pagguhit, pagpinta, or anything related to visual arts sa pamamagitan ng pagdidisenyo ng mga instrumentong ito. You will not be listening to good music only, but you will also be amazed with the artistic designs that you can see on it. Indeed, it's a crossover of two art forms. Not just that, a musical instrument combined with other instrument is also a perfect example of art integration. At ang pinakamagandang halimbawa dito, class, ay ang ginawa ng national artist for music na si Lucrecia R. Casilag, na kung saan yung mga traditional musical instruments natin ay isinama niya sa pag-produce ng mga makabagong musical compositions gamit ang mga makabagong instrumento gaya ng mga ginagamit sa orkestra. And some of the remarkable works ni Ma'am Castelag ay ang improvisations number 3 and number 4 for Muslim, Gamelan, and what we call Tipangklong. So that's what we call the integration of arts in musical instruments. From the musical instruments, dumako naman tayo class sa tinatawag na literary and musical compositions. As different art forms, let us once again give definition sa dalawang ito. Kapag sinabi nating literary works, the main purpose of this ay para basahin, katulad ng mga tula, kwento, nobela, and others, while on the other hand, kapag sinabi nating musical compositions, ay may kinalaman ito sa process of notation. To be honest, when we say musical notation, this is very technical because they use particular symbols, kaya you have to learn it very well first. At dahil ang integration ng literary works at musical compositions ay naging trend in the contemporary era, various songs as its end product became popular. And not just popular, but the message it delivers to the public usually has a strong effect. Perfect example of it are the songs of OPM, or what we call the original Pinoy music. Kalimitan, ang mga awiting ito ay ginagamit upang magpahayag ng isang partikular na kampanya or advokasya tungkol man yan sa pangangalaga sa kalikasan, politika at pamahalaan. Pati na rin ang mahalagang usapin kagaya ng kalayaan at ng demokrasya. In other words, songs produced because of the integration of literary works and musical compositions ay hindi na lamang tungkol sa libangan or entertainment, but it leveled up through its social significance. Halimbawa sa mga awiting nakilala sa kasalukuyan na tunay mong mararamdaman yung masidhing mensahe ay tungkol sa kapiligiran o yung tinatawag nating awitin ng asin na pinamagatang masdan mo ang kapaligiran. Ito ay isa sa mga sikat na awitin hanggang sa kasalukuyang panahon. Of course, kabilang din ang mga patriotic songs from Cap Freddy Aguilar na aside from that, ang iba pa niyang awitin ay sumasalamin din sa kasalukuyang sitwasyon ng ating bayan, ng mga mamamayan, at ng ating lipunan. Next, let us proceed to a contemporary form of arts na in the traditional arts o yung diniscuss natin last week ay magkahiwalay sila at magkaiba. But because we're talking about nga of integration of arts, these two separate forms of arts became one. We have now the so-called visual designs and applied arts combined. For us to better understand the concept of this contemporary art form, balikan muna natin ulit ang purpose ng dalawang ito before the contemporary era has started. In the beginning, visual arts has the purpose of enticing the eyes of the spectators, right? While applied arts naman is the functionality or the usage of the artwork in our everyday living. Kung paano natin ginagamit ang mga ito sa pang-araw-araw nating buhay. But sa pagpasa class ng contemporary art era, it became evident that products of visual arts such as painting, calligraphy, photography, and sculpture ay kakikitaan na din ng halaga at gamit sa pang-araw-araw nating pamumuhay. And in vice versa, product of applied arts naman ay makikita na rin natin na talagang ino-occupy na rin ang ating mata through the enticing and attractive details na ino-offer nito sa kasalukuyan. Kaya nga, the combination of these two art forms ang naging dahilan kung bakit meron tayong visual design and applied arts combined. In other words, class, these two separate forms of arts are now meeting at a common point through their purposes. Bukod pa sa mensaheng ibinibigay nito sa mga audience na mostly tungkol talaga sa contemporary society. And this is the main reason, class, why this form of contemporary arts is one of the most interesting na dapat pag-usapan. So let's have the examples. But again, when we say visual design and applied arts combined as a contemporary form of art, they don't only amuse us, but allows us as well to enjoy its function in our everyday life. Now, nariyan pa din, class, yung tinatawag nating painting. But in the contemporary arts, painting has evolved in many ways and has really changed a lot from the usual theme being presented by the artist to us to having a more complicated concepts and fresh new ideas and techniques. Almost all of its aspects have innovations. One of the best contemporary paintings that we have here is the artwork of Ronald Ventura entitled Gray Ground. Look at the picture very well. At first, you would say that this is just a painting, but this must fall under visual arts and applied arts combined. Because I would like you to know that aside from the strong message that it depicts, this painting was sold for nearly 47 million pesos or 8,420,000 Hong Kong dollars at Sotheby's Modern and Contemporary Southeast Asian Paintings. Naganap yung auction na ito noong April 4, 2011. And because of this auction, it set a new record for the Filipinos as the most expensive items na naibenta sa isang auction. Unbelievable pero amazing indeed. Kaya sa makatuwid, from the purpose of enticing us, the artist has also benefited through its economic function when this obra was sold in the said auction. Another contemporary painting that we have is entitled OMG Christ by Ernest Concepcion. Through extensive studio time and experimentation, he eventually broke away from the formulaic style of his drawing and explored different approaches of conflict, creating an entirely new series of works, including this painting. Now, aside from paintings, we still have sculpture as part of the contemporary art forms under visual design and applied arts combined. But in the contemporary era, ano nga ba ang difference nito sa sculpture na meron before? As you remember, class, before, sculpture usually focuses on realistic figures, while contemporary sculpture centers to the movements of the subjects, including the feelings and the thoughts it invokes. At katulad ng paintings in the contemporary era, class, sculpture has also become an avenue for the sculptors to deliver their beliefs and principles in a particular issue. Taken for an example is the work of Mike Alano. Look at your screen. It's pretty obvious naman that this work of art is connected to Philippine politics. You can see the sculpted images of the two contradicting political icons in the present administration, President Rodrigo Duterte and Senator Leila de Lima. Another is an artwork from Ramon Orlina. a sculptor and an architect who created sculptural forms in a glass medium. On your screen class is his first sculpture called Arcanium 19, Paradise Regained. Indeed, this is a proof that sculpture in the contemporary setting continuously grows as a unique form of art under visual design and applied arts combined. Also, under visual design and applied arts combined is what we call calligraphy. But this time, calligraphy has been modernized and digitalized. Aside from the intricate design it has in every letters and characters, many of the calligraphy artists, especially those who are into digital arts, made this form of contemporary arts as a part of business enterprise or as a source of income. In other words, class, hindi lang ito tungkol sa design and visual effect o visual aspect na ino-offer nito in the contemporary era, but it also serves as an economic function to the artist by earning from these works of art. Now, the question, ang photography ba na dating bahagi ng visual art forms ay maaari na ring mapunta o makonsider as visual design and applied arts combined? The answer is yes. Why? Because of technological advancement and since its demand and trend has been popularized in the present society, photography is not anymore an art that gives attraction to our eyes, but it also serves us and the society in many functions. Another is that contemporary photography class has also developed like from the traditional photography to digital photography where high-tech cameras were being used. In the Philippines, here are some of the famous photography that paved way in the present time. First, we have the famous digital photograph by the late King of Rap, Francis Magalona, entitled Grasshoppers. This photo won first place in 2008 in a competition sponsored by Camera Club. Next, showing the simple life of the fishermen and the people living near the seashore is a photograph from architect Mario Cardenas. Kaya naman we can say that photography has expanded its purpose, especially in the contemporary art production. And finally, since cameras are everywhere, contemporary photography has been part na din ng cyberspace through the so-called social media photography, which I believe you are also fond of. In this kind of photography class, the artist like you who happens to be a netizen or a person using social media applications like Instagram can share photos or pictures in the online world with different messages, bringing different views and opinions. Aside from the products of visual arts, let us now proceed to the applied arts na naging bahagi naman din ng visual design and applied arts combined as art form. Una, we have the architecture. Tanong, how did contemporary era change the architecture in the country? Kapag sinabi nating architecture in the contemporary era, it doesn't have similar or easily recognizable features. Bakit? Kasi in this period, the styles are really quite varied. Napakadami when it comes to how they look and how they were done and constructed. Probably dahil na din sa number of influences na mayroon. But here are some of the notable architectural structures in the present era. First, we have the SMC Side Cebu. This is a large shopping mall in the country that opened last November 27, 2015, and considered as the largest or the third largest shopping mall in the Philippines and 11th naman in the whole world. What's the best feature mayroon in this structure is the tower na makikita nyo on your screen. This 147-meter tall tower is located sa gitna ng mall na ito. At sa loob nito ay mayroong restaurants, coffee shops, and a viewing deck sa taas, which provides people a 360-degree view of Cebu City. Next, we have the famous Philippine Arena, which I have given already as an example last week under this era. But let's give additional information about this structure in the contemporary era. So this one class ay matatagpuan sa tinatawag na Ciudad de Victoria in the Tourism Enterprise Zone in Bocaue and Santa Maria, Bulacan. What makes this notable as contemporary architecture? Well, with a maximum of 55,000 people, kino-consider ito class as the world's largest indoor arena na bahagi ng Centennial Projects ng Iglesia ni Cristo na nag-celebrate ng 100 years of establishment last July 27, 2014. Next is a combination naman of both historical features and contemporary techniques in architecture ay ang tinatawag na historical restoration of houses na matatagpuan sa Las Casas Filipinas de Acuzar. Ito ay matatagpuan sa Municipality of Bagac in the province of Bataan. It offers history, tourism, and recreation to a lot of guests and visitors in the present time. From architecture, pumunta naman tayo sa another integration of applied arts to visual arts, which is pottery. Nowadays class, ginagamit na din ang artist o ginagamit na din ng artist ang art of pottery upang i-express yung kanilang imagination and creativity sa pamamagitan ng paglalagay ng mga visual designs. At hindi lang ito dahil nadagdagan din yung function sapagkat for some people, nagiging way din nila ang art of pottery to earn for a living. Katulad na lang ng potteries that can be found in Clay Avenue na pagmamayari ni Mia Casal at ito ay matatagpuan sa San Narciso, Zambales. Class, ang pinakamaganda about the potteries by Mia Casal is that she not only creates the pieces and delivers them to clients, but she also manages and teaches classes in hopes na ma-inspire yung iba for the love o na meron sa pagmamahal sa art of pottery. Her handmade clay pots and ceramic jewelry are for sale at local bazaars and may be seen on exhibit around the country and in the different parts of the world. Siyempre class, kabilang din sa tinatawag nating contemporary forms of art under visual design and applied arts combined ay ang fashion design. It's true or totoong totoo that due to the development of social media, maraming Filipino men and women ang na-expose to different fashion styles, right? At dahil na rin sa patuloy na pag-usbong ng ekonomiya sa bansa since the 1986 People Power Revolution, ay ang constructions na din ng shopping malls and shopping centers where many Filipinos began buying more clothes. At hindi lang sa pagbili ng damit class ha, ang ilan sa mga Filipino fashion designers ay patuloy din sa pag-experiment in the purpose of producing new sense of styles in these contemporary art forms. Some even incorporate digital arts in designing, while others naman ay gumagamit ng visual arts in the production of new masterpieces. And until today ay patuloy ang pag-usbong, patuloy ang pag-evolve sa maraming aspeto ng fashion and the Philippine contemporary arts. Ngayon, bukod sa mga traditional visual artworks and applied artworks na pinagsama-sama ang konsepto at purpose, ay nagbigay din ito sa pag-usbong ng mga makabagong uri ng contemporary art forms under visual design and applied arts combined. Ano-ano ang mga ito? Ang una ay ang tinatawag nating installation art. I know that many of you are already familiar with this sapagkat this art form is really very 21st century, very contemporary ika nga. This one is pasok na pasok ika nga sa panlasa or taste ninyo as a young artist. Kaya class, kapag sinabi nating installation arts, this is an artistic genre of three-dimensional works na ang ultimate purpose and function is to design and to transform the perception of a particular space. In this kind of art form, ang ilan sa kanila ay permanente, pero most of the times or kalimitan, ito ay pansamantala lamang. Gayunpaman, what's important is the purpose na mayroon dito, to entice the eyes of the viewers and to serve its functions like advocating for a specific social issue and concerns. Sa Pilipinas class, there are many installation arts ang nakilala. Halimbawa na dito ay ang famous installation art by Jose Terence Ruiz entitled Show. This artwork is in collaboration with two other artists, Danilo Ilag-Ilag and Jeremy Giap. It is an expression of the artist's view on the dispute in the South China Sea, or should I say West Philippine Sea. Next is an obra from another artistic installation artist in the country whose name is Leroy New, the Bakawan Floating Project. And class, this project highlights not only the beauty of Pasig River, but it also emphasizes the importance in the conservation of our water bodies. At bukod dito class, it allows the spectators to explore a vibrant symbol of hope and rejuvenation. Another installation art by Filipino contemporary artists was a floor-to-ceiling installation of miniature cardboard houses by Alfredo and Isabel Aquilizan. This was done in 2012, and this work speaks of community, personal experience, memory, displacement, and psychological effects of migration, which is one of the country's pressing issues of today. Ngayon, another brand new in the field of visual design and applied arts combined is what we call integrative art. When we say integrative art, this is a genre of art in which the viewers participate in some way by providing an input in order to determine the outcome. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Sa madaling sabi class, it reminds us the salient feature of contemporary arts, which has something to do with the audience participation para totally masabi natin that the art is functional or the art is effective when it comes to the delivery of its message, kailangan ng participation. kailangang maging kabahagi yung spectators o yung tinatawag nating audience. One perfect example of interactive art na matatagpuan sa bansa is the Art in Island na nasa Cubao, Quezon City. And class, tandaan that mostly in interactive art, nariyan palagi yung tinatawag na optical art or better known as 3D art or trick art, which gives illusion of depth to the spectators or the audience. Tricky or complex in other words. So class, these are some of the examples ng mga bagong visual design and applied arts combined in the contemporary forms of art. Now, pumunta naman tayo sa another integrative form of art which is also considered as a contemporary art forms of today, the theatrical performance. This contemporary art form class is a combination of dance, music, visual design, theater, and of course, any other form of arts that may be applied to make the output fruitful. At kapag sinabi nating theatrical performance, it pertains to a public presentation of a dramatic or musical entertainment. If dati we only have moro-moro, senaculo, zarzuela, and other traditional theatrical performances, this time, sa pagbabago ng panahon, contemporary theatrical performances have become experimental, innovative, controversial, and interdisciplinary. Ibig sabihin, it goes beyond the usual theater and other art forms. At ang concept ng presentation class ay usually goes out to the other disciplines katulad ng psychology, and mostly kabilang na rin dito ang social and political science. In the present time, ang perfect example nito ay ang Rock of Ages. Ano ba yung Rock of Ages? Rock of Ages class was one of the first Filipino productions which ushered in the trend of jukebox musicals, giving birth to a newfound appreciation for theater and original Pinoy music that crosses all boundaries of social class and age. Today, Rock of Ages class is considered as the longest running original Pinoy musical in contemporary Philippine theater. At ano ang pinakamaganda dito? Ang mensahe ng Rock of Ages ay isang magandang halimbawa ng Filipino resiliency na sa kahit anumang pagsubok ay matatag at nananatiling lumalaban at kumakapit ang mga Pilipino. Aside from that, we also have ang Huling El Bimbo. And alam ko most of you have watched it during the enhanced community quarantine season. Tungkol saan ba ito? So this is a story of friendship told through the songs of the most iconic Pinoy rock band from the 90s. It is an original story that should resonate with people who understand how the powerful bond between friends shapes our lives. Napaka-meaningful, napakaganda. And it will also be a nostalgic journey class driven by songs that have become part of the collective Pinoy spirit. So, that's what we call theatrical performance. And from theatrical performance, let us have the last contemporary art form which had a humble beginnings during the early years of art history in the country, the cinema. Ano ba ang cinema? Sabi class, it is the most popular of the art forms, yet it is the youngest of all. I'll repeat, it is the most popular of all art forms, yet it is the youngest of all. Why do you think so? Because class, majority of the spectators find it as the most amusing and most entertaining contemporary art form. At hindi lang yan, very high-tech, very latest at updated when it comes to the development. To be honest, its characteristic class are the same with the theater, except that it is not a live performance. And as far as I believe and as far as I remember, nasabi ko na din yan in the previous discussion. Sa Pilipinas, kailan ba nagsimula ang sinema? It was believed that first time nagsimula ang cinema industry in the early 1900s at particularly nagsimula ito sa Manila. At later, nag-spread ito sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa. It has gained public acceptance since then, and many crossover ng other forms of arts ang evident dito. Like a literary work of art ay isinapelikula, or ang dating theatrical performance ay na-convert naman into a good movie. One recent example is the 2012 comedy musical entitled I Dooby Dooby Doo, Heto na po sila, which is a movie tribute to the prized trio of the 80s, the Apo Hiking Society. Next is a movie adaptation naman from Luwalhati Bautista's well-known literary piece entitled Dekada 70. This film tells the story of the life of a middle-class Filipino family who, over the space of a decade, become aware of the political policies that have ultimately led to the repression and the state of martial law in the Philippines. Isa ito sa pinakamagandang pelikula sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa, Dekada 70. And of course, hindi lang yan, kabilang din sa tinatawag nating contemporary Philippine cinema ay ang mga independent movies or the so-called indie films. The emergence class of digital cameras and their high-tech accessories in the market have spawned the growth of indie films. Sapagkat ngayon ang lahat ay may access at kapasidad na gumawa ng sariling pelikula in accordance to one's personal styles and way without the influences of the mainstream movie outfits, which indeed have a good effects on movie industry in the world, especially na rin dito sa ating bansa. This movie or this in the movies have also become the avenue para gisingin ang maraming manonood sa kasalukuyang kalagayan ng ating bansa. So basically, class, these are some of the contemporary art forms that we have in the country. Nakita natin kung paano nabago ng kasalukuyang panahon ang mga nakagistan nating art forms. And finally, class, I'd like to say that a lot has happened in the contemporary art scene since its onset. Most of them are now collaborative, right? And community-based, fostering values of camaraderie, cooperation, and even pride of our nation. Pero isa lang dito, class, yung laging sigurado. At ano ito? Hanggat may mga Filipino artists na gumagawa at patuloy na binibigyang halaga ang paglinang sa ating sining, patuloy itong kakapit sa atin bilang mahalagang bahagi ng ating personal na buhay at ng ating lipunang ginagalawan.